So this is Retaliation Part 2. I will link the video that I did a few weeks ago where I documented the retaliation that occurred, some of the retaliation that occurred while I was on contract. For those who are not aware, I am currently fighting some corporate litigation, and I chose to do it in a pro se manner, which means I am self-representing. Unfortunately, I am one of those who had some bad experiences with attorneys, but yeah, it was tragic. Anyway, and so that was part of the reason I decided to embark on this journey as an individual. The reason I say this is because I was on contract as a business, and I as a business wanted to also understand where the employee stands when this happens. How is the employee treated? And this is part of the reason I did it. When it comes to gender wage gap, when it comes to gender bias in the workplace, when it comes to discrimination in the workplace, why is it that we are being mistreated, mishandled, disrespected? And then on the tail end, also, I'm seeing left and right videos of women and men being retaliated on, not able to get a job, out of work for months, if not years. It's not okay to hurt people like that. People need their jobs to, pay their bills and help their kids and etc. It is not okay. And I, as a business, understand that my intellectual property is everything. I will not allow my intellectual property to be stolen. And I understood that while this was happening, because I did have to stop production due to being copyright infringed, I had to stop doing a lot of things for a while, a year. So, with that being said, the reason I chose to do this way, there's a lot of good that can be done when we understand the gaps, the disparities. As a software engineer by trade, I'm an IT executive, but I started my IT career way back when, doing more like a support role, validation and support. Did go into some architecture and development, DB, database stuff, Oracle databases, SQL databases. I have done a lot of project management. I have built applications from initiation with requirements gathering through to build out development and some validation. We have our independent work. Other applications. I've worked in sectors like energy, natural gas. mythinkenergy.com is still up and active. Actually, you can go real time. That's my database. If it's still the same database, if I queried, I validated that database. I have extensive experience in regulatory environments. This is kind of my forte. Not kind of, this is my forte. I have, for the better part of my career, always been in a regulatory environment. Medical, financial, energy, oil and gas. This is an offer letter from an aerospace organization that I got in 2014, because I have been doing this for a lot longer than people might believe. And I'm really, really good. I'm saying this because I noticed the retaliation, not only with the hacking. I was actually getting hacked. I had to call the police a number of times. It got to the point where the police actually told me to call the feds. I'm only going by what I was told to do. I'm not out here just tagging the feds, all willy-nilly, just being, obnoxious. I am actually doing what I was told to do. I was, in fact, guided down this path, given what we were seeing and what was happening. It got really bad. I was not sure if my home had been compromised. I do know that all of my electronics had been compromised and our lines were being monitored. I had other people telling me that they thought their lines were being monitored. I understood what was happening and why. When I was banned from the site for, remember, the goggles, I was under the impression that it was over goggles. I was never written up for anything else. I was never reprimanded. And the only incident we had was apparently me telling on myself with these goggles. They look like these. Remember these? I am going to say that from a software perspective, depending on how the person is relieved of their responsibilities, there are different flags that will get checked on the back end of the software. And what do I mean by that? Imagine you have a database, and as part of your offboarding, as part of your closeout, you are documenting if this person, what type of employee they were. Are they rehirable? This is a big one. If a person is not rehirable, it will trigger a flag in their database. And when you have companies like Workday that do so much PeopleSoft, HR, computing, and they work across so many large platforms, you siloed into a different category when you're being fed through the system. Why? Because the flag's been triggered. You're not rehirable at your last employer. We're not sending you to your next employer. That's if you want to know how basic this is, it is that simple. The issue with me and them being banned is the logic is essentially the same, but it's a little different, because when I got banned from the Westbrook site, what that did was it actually, because I'm being banned, air quotes, banned from this site, there would be an automatic flag when we go into Workday saying they're not allowed back on this site, that is triggered saying rehirable. Absolutely not. I'm not allowed back on the site. And it is for the for the company's protection. If a person is not allowed on site, then you cannot be hired. And that's what the software does. Like, it is very simple. And when you can't be hired because you've been blacklisted, this is what we call blacklisted. You have people who sit out of work for 8, 10, 12 months longer. In my case, 3+ years. I applied to over 1,000 positions. I was qualified for, overqualified for, underqualified for. And this is how I knew I was being retaliated against. One was an AI interview, so I'm not even counting that one anymore. One was a former that I did not hear back from them. One was, and I did not leave on horrible terms. One was an actual interview, and I ended up flying out to go meet with them. It was great. We loved each other, and then nothing. And then like 6 months later, once I was knee deep in lawsuits, they did call. And unfortunately, at this point, I, had already essentially died to my career. My therapist and I had a long conversation about it. It's a long story. The reality is I was going to have to disclose all of the litigation I was in as a business. And I was not in a position to do so. For those who don't know, my role within this sector is that of a validation regulatory expert. I was at one point an ISO certified auditor. I understand regulation better than people might expect. I have, in this process, began documenting a pro se review process for an application using regulatory tools that I hope to present as part of the Supreme Court case, in hopes that we can have resolution for this country. It is 2025, 2026. We walk around with computers in our pockets. They're called cell phones. AI is up and running. Our world is changing and improving exponentially every single day. And we are still saying that a layman cannot execute a pro se case in the day of AI. If it's procedural, then I have a network. I have a large network of attorneys who would be more than happy to help with procedure, because documentation is not the issue, nor is history, case logs, and files. As I continue to talk about what retaliation, what intimidation, what these discomforts look like real time, people are better able to see it for what it is. When I say I was actually being hacked, I mean my emails were being deleted. My Marriott Bonvoy account, a room was scheduled. I actually had a reservation for a minute in Boston at one point. I was not in Boston at that time. My bank accounts were hacked. I had several accounts closed, had fraud on my accounts. All of my social media was hacked. This was one of the tipping points. Thank you, Elon. I love you. And because my ex was hacked. And unfortunately, I was not the biggest fan of Twitter. And when my ex got hacked, I understood exactly what the hell happened, because I hadn't logged into Twitter in like 5 years. And it was hacked from Florida. where the corporate office is of the contract I was working under is. Because, now technology loves to tell you exactly where you're getting hacked from. So this was coming from Florida. I'm putting up a screenshot now. So I was not giving an asset going into this organization for the middle company, the middle tier company. I was given an asset for the larger conglomerate, Abbott. When I was asked to connect my work, my business PC to their SharePoint, I was forced to give them administrative access to my computer, which they would relinquish at the termination of my contract. That did not happen. This root folder is an administrative folder on my machine that gives them authority and control over my machine, just like me. We're both administrators on this machine. What this did was allow them access to all of my files for the duration of time that they kept this folder on my machine. Shortly after we began fighting this pro se, and I did mention this in one of the motions, the folder disappeared. Oh. So how did I know I was being hacked? My Amaya's Adventures, putting up a picture of the newest book, Guardians of the Sea, out now, available on my website. We are not doing public distribution. Given all the copyright infringing, you will have to go directly through me to get any Amaya, any books until this is all completely resolved. The first two are still available on their respective retailers, but from this point forward, I'm not releasing anything through distribution channels. And there was incident with Amaya's Adventures, the books. There were replicas created. The lady, I don't know her. I will not say anything about the quality of work. We spent some time dealing with it. And as you can imagine, with these people having access, administrative rights, and not relinquishing access to my machine and my files, it does now leave us open to investigations and other statutes that could in fact be corporate espionage. I do believe that they are absolutely involved. I understand exactly why this looks the way it does. The intent was to hurt my business to the point where I would not sue, but just shut down. I am giving these examples, so we'll bullet point them again, right? I was being hacked all across financials, socials, travel apps, you name it, it was getting hacked. Even at one point, I thought my Ring camera was being hacked, but I'm not sure that that's what that was. So I'm going to, I'm not going to include that, but I went as far as having to get my routers changed out. I did take extensive measure to ensure my security. I was forced to remove my guns from my house because I did not feel safe. And it was causing a mania. I was so scared. I was so stressed out. I was distressed. You name it. I was there. I was forced to remove my guns. This is called responsible gun ownership. And I am grateful in this moment to be an American woman who has the right to own guns and the sanity to relinquish them when my sanity is being threatened and my safety is not under my control. This helps. Yeah, the root folder, the administrative folder on my PC, which by the way was also tied back to a masking computer name. And when I say this is not incredibly technical, but I understand that because people are not aware of the terminology, it sounds like French. I advise that you seek out a reputable source that can actually connect the dots, right? And the reason I say that is because the masking of my computer name with the administrative root folder, these are all connected. I have confirmed that it was not the other accounts on my computer. And this is what I mean, right? Because if you have multiple users on one machine, if you have a number of users on a network, there are a variety of reasons why one could be confused and misconstrue what you're saying into a hacking incident. And there's no need to bring up, frivolous racketeering cases. But this is how you prove retaliation while you're being hacked, stalked, followed. If you're being followed or stalked, if you feel like, start documenting it. Do a video, write it down, document. I was in constant communication with the police, emails, messages, phone calls. I spent almost a year back and forth with Texas law enforcement. How do you know you're being retaliated? You're not getting interviews. You're not getting callbacks. You're not getting a job. You're essentially being blacklisted for positions you know you're qualified for. Why is this critical? This is important because while the merit is there for people who actually screw their employers, and I say that as a business, right? If you're out here screwing all of your employers, and we can't in good conscience let you go get another job and run the risk of being sued. However, there are individuals out here who have disabilities, who have pressing needs that need to be met, that infringe on their civil rights should they be neglected. I expect that legislation I have began will address some of these issues from a software perspective. From a system should not allow candidate, employee, contractee to be flagged as not rehirable should disability on 305 form be present. This is a regulatory requirement that is currently not being met. I was forced to disclose my neurodiversities in the midst of all of this, which has garnered me a lot of animosity, resentment, and a lot of disturbing feelings, given that I spent so many years, one, trying to figure out exactly where my neurodiversities lied, and two, understanding treatment plans for me and accommodations for me. I spent a lot of time masking my neurodiversities. I hope that this helps somebody. I hope that if you are being retaliated against, you call me or another person you confide in, an attorney you trust, to help you through this. Call law enforcement, get them involved as soon as you suspect that you're being criminally retaliated against. Again, I hope this helps, and as always, I love you.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.